2016 is already coming to a close. This is kind of insane. I cannot believe this year has blown by this fast, and it is time once again to talk about my picks for my favorite movies of 2016. These are my personal picks, and this year I have done 15. In the past I've done 10 or even up to 20. This year there were so many good films that I just had to include 5 extra for this list. A lot of people have referred to 2016 as not the greatest year for film, and I guess that'd be true if all of your hopes and dreams were riding on movies like Independence Day Resurgence or Jason Bourne. If your livelihood rests on the success of those movies, well then I'm sorry, because this year is probably kind of sucky for you. Yes, there were a lot of misfires this year in the big budget franchise category. We're going to talk about a few of the really good ones in that category, but there were a lot of films, I think, this year that flew under people's radar. And we're going to talk about a lot of those. And just like every year, I do have a few honorable mentions, some great films that I really wanted to put on this list but didn't quite make it, and those films are Hell or High Water, Hunt for the Wilder People, Sing Street, Kubo and the Two Strings, Fences, and 10 Cloverfield Lane. And like I say every single year, but I must reiterate once again, grades don't matter here. This is not an automatic ranking based on grade. These are my personal favorite films that I can see myself watching over and over again for years to come. So let's get going with number 15. The Witch is one of the most underrated films of 2016. I think it's an excellent horror film, very slow burn, a lot of really good tension, very well directed and acted. If you've never seen this movie and you enjoy horror films, especially more unconventional horror, check it out. Swiss Army Man, for me, is one of the most original films of the year. A lot of critics did not get this film. A lot of people said, I don't know, he farts a lot, he's dead. That's okay, that's weird. I loved Swiss Army Man. I found it incredibly subversive, completely different, and wholly unique. Arrival confirms beyond the shadow of a doubt that Denis Villeneuve is one of the best directors working today. If Enemy, Prisoners, and Sicario and Incendie didn't, this is that film that I think a lot of people are going to remember as the film where they first started to really notice that name, and perhaps it's the film that can make his name a household name, even though a lot of people can't really pronounce it. This film was a fantastic science fiction movie, a very different alien invasion film, and this is something we're going to talk about a lot on this list. Movies that are of a certain genre, but did it in a unique way. Patterson, a movie so mundane and seemingly inconsequential that it felt very fresh and original. I loved Adam Driver in this movie. I loved watching a movie that was essentially a tribute to everyday people. And it was so funny and so real. Seek this one out if you missed it. Zootopia, for me, is my favorite American animated film that came out in 2016. This was a great animation that was extremely entertaining and very fun to watch, but also had really good themes and a great message that was underneath the surface. And kids can watch it and appreciate it as an entertaining movie, but adults who are looking for a little bit more in their films can really also appreciate the fact that this movie had something to say. And I think it's a really good film for kids to see. Manchester by the Sea was one of the most realistic films I saw in 2016. The drama was so real and palpable. It was such a poignant film and very crushing emotionally. Casey Affleck and Michelle Williams were amazing in the film. All of the acting felt as if I was watching real people. It didn't necessarily feel like I was watching characters that were written on a page and then transferred to screen. It just felt like I was watching real things happen before my eyes, and I felt like after it ended, I could have watched a lot more. The Boy and the Beast was directed by Mamoru Hosoda and was an anime film that came over to America. I found this film so touching, incredibly well animated, and I think it's really gone under a lot of people's radars. For me, it's one of the most underrated films of 2016. It was kind of like Karate Kid, except told in a far more fantastical way. If you missed The Boy and the Beast, and especially if you like anime, but even if you don't, I highly recommend checking this film out. It always bugs me how films like this are just kind of thrown into theaters and then no one ever talks about it again. The Boy and the Beast, I think, is one of the most touching animated films that I've seen and one of the most underrated films of 2016. They pulled it off. Captain America Civil War was a total blast. This is a film that I was really anticipating. I would have liked to have seen it higher on my list, but in the long run, it's on my list because it actually was that good. Does Spider-Man have to be in this movie? Yeah! He's awesome. He's Spider-Man. He's one of my favorite superheroes of all time. And even though you can kind of look at that and say maybe they shoehorned him in, I think they found a really great middle ground of introducing that character. It was a great conflict between our heroes. It wasn't just about battles and action, and I think it all came to a head beautifully. It was exciting. This is everything a blockbuster movie should be. Hacksaw Ridge was Mel Gibson's triumphant return to directing. I love Apocalypto. I loved Braveheart. I even enjoyed The Man Without a Face. And Passion of the Christ, I think, is a good movie. This is a fantastic war film. It's so gritty. It's so realistic in its depiction of horrific violence, and it made war truly feel like hell. Andrew Garfield was incredible in the film. Vince Vaughn was really good. This film got good performances out of Luke Bracey and Sam Worthington. And for that reason alone, it deserves to be on this list. Moonlight. This is a film that I can't see myself rewatching a lot because it is very long and it's very depressing and it's very intense in its depiction of a boy growing up in a harsh urban environment. But despite the fact that I can't see myself popping this Blu-ray in every once in a while, I couldn't find a single flaw with this movie. This film is directed so masterfully, and it told its story with such beautiful, heartfelt emotion. I think if you missed this film in theaters, definitely seek out that Blu-ray when it comes out. Deadpool. This was, for me, one of the biggest surprises of 2016. I was excited about this movie. I was careful, though. I was like, the last time Ryan Reynolds portrayed Deadpool in a film, that really went south. And all of my worries just went out the door within the opening credits alone. This is one of the best adaptations of a comic book hero to the big screen in regards to capturing the feel, the tone, and the essence of that character. I love Deadpool. Again, everything a blockbuster movie should be. Your Name is the anime film that I got to see in LA when it was doing its Oscar qualifying run, and I was so glad that I did because this film truly touched me. It's my favorite animated film of 2016. It's a great, great story that tells a romance in a very unique body-swapping way that I've never really seen in animation and not too much in live action either. There are movies that swap gender roles and people go in and out of other people's bodies, but it was never quite told in this way, and it also mastered something that's very hard to do, especially in animation. When you start out a film and it's very lighthearted, there's that transition where it gets to serious. And sometimes in film, that's where you mess up, bridging that gap between fun and lighthearted to intense and emotional. And this film did it perfectly. I highly recommend checking out Your Name. I know a lot of you never saw it, and some of you probably haven't just because it hasn't come to your area yet. When it does, please go see this movie. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. Silence is Martin Scorsese's latest masterpiece. This film was psychologically brutal. There are sequences in this movie that were so tough to watch. It penetrates the human soul of these characters so well. It's such an investing story. Even though it's very long and there are a lot of sequences that can go on, there's always a reason for a shot in this film, and Scorsese told it so brilliantly as usual. When Silence starts to expand into more theaters, definitely see this one, guys. Martin Scorsese is continuing to be a master at what he does. La La Land. I had to see this one again. I saw it a second time just to make sure where it was on my list. This film got even better the second time. I have only one flaw with La La Land. I think it's a little too long. I think maybe about 15 minutes could be trimmed off of that runtime. Other than that, this is one of the best, if not, in my opinion, the best musical ever made. Gosling and Emma Stone are brilliant in this film. There are so many amazing musical numbers and dance sequences, and it is as close to perfectly directed as a film like this gets. It feels like you're watching a movie that was made in the 1950s today in the theater. La La Land is amazing. If you missed it in theaters, definitely check this one out because it is starting to expand more. It is one of the best films of the year, and for a musical to be this high on my list, you know it's pretty damn good. Well guys, it has come down to this. What is my personal pick for my favorite movie of 2016? The Blu-ray that I've watched the most? The movie that I went to the theater the most times to see? Well, that film is... A sharp eye may have noticed that I am dressed in Ryan Gosling's outfit from that movie. The Nice Guys is my favorite movie of 2016. This is a film that people just don't make anymore. When's the last time you saw a great detective noir style mystery? These films aren't on the market anymore, and it's no surprise. This film tanked heavily at the box office. Nobody saw it. No one's talking about it anymore. Everyone that I have talked to about this film that did actually see it liked it or loved it. I've not talked to a single person that didn't like The Nice Guys. I think it is such an original film. Shane Black wrote and directed the shit out of this movie. His script is so incredible. I just rewatched it last night on Blu-ray to make sure this is my favorite movie of the year, and despite having seen it multiple times already, I laughed my ass off the entire time. Gosling gives, I think, one of the best comedic performances that I have seen in the past 5 to 10 years. Russell Crowe is such a great companion piece for him. They work together so well. The chemistry is amazing. If you watch these two in interviews for The Nice Guys, they're great. This is a movie that has a fight scene with Keith David in it. If you're a fan of the movie They Live, well then you know that a fight scene with Keith David is a pretty awesome thing to see. Let's talk about Angourie Rice in this movie. My God, one of the most underrated performances of 2016. Her accent in this movie is perfect. She is so great in this movie and so funny. It's no surprise that she's in the new Spider-Man film. If you watch the Blu-ray special features of this movie and go to the Always Bet on Black special feature, you will hear Shane Black talking about the fact that he wanted to make a sequel to this. That he actually says, I could make movies like this with these two characters for the rest of my life. And he goes, I'm not saying sequel, but sequel. And of course, no one saw this movie because, you know, there's no superheroes in it. The Nice Guys is the type of movie that people who love film should support. Please, go out and buy this movie on Blu-ray or rent it on Amazon. Don't download it. Don't torrent it. Actually support this film. The novelization is even good. I've read it. It's good. The soundtrack is amazing. My wife bought it for me on vinyl. My friend and I dressed up like the Nice Guys for Halloween this year, which was so great, and Russell Crowe even noticed and retweeted. That was one of the coolest and most fun nights of my entire life. The Nice Guys is my favorite movie of the year. I think it's incredibly funny. I think the action set pieces are great. I think it has two characters I would love to see more from, and the most underrated screenplay of the year. For me, The Nice Guys is 2016's Edge of Tomorrow. Except Edge of Tomorrow is actually getting a sequel, supposedly, and made a lot more money. Guys, thank you so much for watching my videos in 2016. I had a great time talking movies with you guys. What are some of your favorite picks of this year? What are some movies you found underrated this year? I'd love to know, and stay tuned because my worst of the year video is coming very soon. You guys are the best. Thank you so much as always for watching, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.